We've all seen the nativity scenes, the peaceful baby Jesus, the adoring parents, and a few gentle-looking animals. It's a serene image we put on our mantelpieces. But what if the reality of that night was far more shocking? What if the story we've tidied up is actually a radical, even a scandalous account of a king choosing the absolute lowest place to begin his life? The God who spun stars into existence, the Word who spoke galaxies into being, chose to enter our world not in a palace, but in total obscurity. He became a helpless baby in an animal's food trough. Have you ever really let the shock of that sink in? The answer reveals the most profound and revolutionary love story ever told. So let's revisit that night in Bethlehem, but this time beyond the plastic figurines. Let's imagine the reality. It probably wasn't a silent, holy night. The setting wasn't a cosy wooden stable. Some of the earliest Christian traditions, dating back to the 2nd century, say Jesus was born in a cave used to shelter animals. Imagine it for a moment. Damp, thick with the smell of manure, and filled with the sounds of livestock. Mary, exhausted from a long journey, gives birth far from home, without comfort or a proper bed. When the creator of the universe takes his first breath, his first bed isn't a royal cradle, but a manger, a rough, splintery feeding trough. The contrast is staggering. A king's birth should be an event of power and pronouncements. Most scholars today see the nativity stories as theological narratives rather than strict historical accounts, but the theological point is what's powerful. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a flaw in God's plan. This was the plan. And understanding why changes everything. So why the manger? The first and most powerful reason is captured in a single name, Emmanuel, which means God with us. The God of the universe refused to be a distant, untouchable deity. The book of John says, "So the Word became human and made his home among us." God didn't shout his love from heaven. He whispered it by becoming small and one of us. The manger is the starting point of this divine closeness. It's a bold declaration that God isn't afraid of our reality. He doesn't just tolerate our world from a distance. He enters it willingly and lovingly to be right there with us. That leads to the second reason. God became a baby to fully identify with our humanity. He didn't arrive as a full-grown man with all the answers. He chose to experience the entire spectrum of human life, dependence, fragility, and struggle. He literally entered into our weakness. The Bible says we have a high priest, Jesus, who understands our weaknesses because he faced all of the same testings we do, yet he did not sin. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. That life of deep personal understanding began in the manger. He knows what it's like to be helpless. He knows what it's like to be overlooked, and he knows what it's like to be uncomfortable. His compassion isn't theoretical. It's rooted in lived experience. The manger tells us that no matter how low we feel, God has been lower. He gets it. Third, the manger was a profound statement about the kind of kingdom he came to build. In a world that worships power and status, God turned everything upside down. The manger was a deliberate rejection of the world's values. It was a symbol that his kingdom isn't built on force, but on love. It isn't built on status, but on service. This was the birth of a new kind of power, one found in humility. But there's an even deeper layer of meaning. The birth happened in a town called Bethlehem, which in Hebrew means house of bread. And where was the baby laid? In a manger, a feeding trough. The symbolism is breathtaking. Jesus, who would one day call himself the bread of life, began his earthly life as a loaf of bread offered to a hungry world. It was a sign that he is our spiritual food, the only one who can satisfy our deepest hunger. The distance between the throne of the cosmos and a feeding trough in Bethlehem is the measure of God's love for you. The manger wasn't an unfortunate circumstance. It was a deliberate, radical act of love. It was God emptying himself, becoming vulnerable and accessible to all. The shepherds, often seen as humble members of society, weren't barred by palace gates. They were invited to the very first cradle side. That manger is an open invitation. It tells us that no one is too broken or too insignificant to come to God, because God has already come to us in our mess. He chose the lowest place to lift us all up. So this Christmas, when you see a nativity scene, look past the quaint figurines. See the shocking humility instead. See the radical love. And see the King who chose to sleep in a manger so that we could find a home in his heart. If this story has moved you today, share this with someone who needs a message of hope, and subscribe for more content that uncovers the deep truths in our most familiar stories. I'm Westwood-Payne, and this is the Battle Drill Daily Devotional.